Hello, Zephyrs here. We're having another look at Dawn of War 3. May 31st saw the release of a major update by Relic Entertainment, and among other things it included leaderboards and some improvement to the game. So stay tuned and let's see how this modern RTS stands today. Alright, so what about the user interface and key bindings? Unfortunately, I'm afraid to say that this is one of the major issues that I have with the game right now. No improvements whatsoever are found in the actual graphical interface. Low resolution images, as you can see from the screen, for example. Misplaced information, bland fonts used all over the place. Inaccurate hitboxes in, for example, clicking on the minimap, which is extremely infuriating at times, and an overall cumbersome and clunky feel to the entire user interface. That can be easily improved in future updates, but something that was missing from the released version of the game and is still missing and is unforgivable for any modern RTS is the fact that key bindings are neither displayed outside a game or, for that matter, actually customizable. So we have at our hands a game that was released in 2017 championing one of the good and long-standing franchises of the RTS genre that is lacking this basic functionality that is the interface between the game and the player. This is something that we really don't understand, and that we hope that it serves as an example of how you can develop a pretty good game and have some design choices that are actually excellent in many respects, but still completely fail to deliver a proper, modern, updated RTS experience. Now, what about performance? There are still some network issues, some kind of connectivity problems found in matches online, and the fact that there's no pause option in the game makes it really bad. So that's something that should be said. There's also longish queuing times, but again, that might be the player base being not large enough. You can really comment on that. But most importantly, when it comes to performance, is that there is currently what we feel is an implemented input latency in the game, or input delay. And I want to illustrate this with the army pointer here. So let me show you the shiny Enlightning Angels. Quite a nice color pattern. But just, maybe you already noticed, but just look at the speed at which the unit models rotate with respect to the mouse motion. Okay? So if you pay attention, there's a slight delay, and you might be thinking, I can't really notice the delay, but if I move the mouse really fast, you will see that the unit models will not rotate. And I will move the mouse from the right to the left of the screen, and you will see that the mouse will reach the far left side of the screen and the units will still be still. You see that? I move it, and then it lags for a good third of a second. So you can see that I move it to the left, and then it only rotates after the mouse is to the other side. So this latency in the overall input to certain commands in the game is just game breaking for an RTS. I mean, there's so much micro-intensive moments in the game that I cannot really understand how this is something that has been implemented. Because obviously this is nothing to do with netcode, it's nothing to do with latency in games, which of course makes it worse. By the way, when you're playing and you're having any sort of connectivity issues, this is worsened and you will have a bad time trying to control your units. But I'm very baffled that there's this sort of latency implemented in the game. It's just something I don't really understand, that in my opinion it breaks the game. Now let's move on to the main topic of this video, which is addressing the competitive update that Relic Entertainment claimed this update to be, this particular patch to be. So first of all, let's just have a look at the matchmaking system. So you can see here that the only possibility out of all this is quick match, because everything else allows you to browse custom online games, create custom solo games, etc. So the only mode that you can select for ranked games or so you believe, because there's no other indication to actually know this, is quick match. So you'll hit search, you'll wait for a while, and you'll get a game. So there's no obvious way to tell which games that you play actually contribute to your rating in the multiplayer rankings, right? So in order to comment on that, let's just move over to the player profile and let's discuss this a little bit, because it is very, very lackluster to say that they updated the game to be played competitively. Is a bit of a joke, if I dare to say, because at the moment all you can see that was not previously implemented in the game are the rank and the win-loss ratio. So obviously something that is welcome, but as a standard feature in many competitive games, it should be assumed that that would already be implemented. So what is the problem with the current sort of ranking system? First of all, ratings, so matchmaking ratings or ELOs or whatever mechanism they use to actually rank players, is completely hidden. You see your literal rank face value, which, by the way, I will comment later, is actually pretty meaningless for different reasons. But the actual rating system is hidden. You don't see how much you gain by beating a particular player or how much you lose by losing a particular game. So that's obviously very bad for player information and for player feedback, naturally. Now, if we move over to match history, where we should find all the interesting information about our games so that we can learn from them, etc. Of course, there is a Learn tab and there are replays that you can check, but that's a welcome addition. But using the Match History tab in the player profile, you will see that you're given extremely basic statistics, so duration, etc., map played, etc. And then all these numbers, you might think, oh, that's a lot of in-depth information. Well, it actually isn't. For the most part, this information is either useless or actually very obscure. So, for example, what does objective damage mean in terms of percentage? Nobody really knows. Why is it relevant, the fact that you destroyed or produced this number of units? All these kind of things are, yes, statistics, they are accurate. I mean, to my knowledge, they work well, but they don't say anything about your actual performance. You can't say the game lasted this long and I destroyed those many units. Oh, I played better these other game where the game lasted a completely different amount of time and I destroyed a completely different number of units. So in that sense, it is nice that you can check stats of all your past games at a glance. That's indeed a nice feature, but the stats displayed are just pretty much useless. So that just contributes to the lack of player feedback. And then, of course, there's the big problem, there's the huge issue with the game right now, and that is leaderboards. Of course, this was updated and this was a feature that everyone was looking forward to, and it's a disappointment. Just to put it plainly, it's a disappointment. First of all, it is race specific. Why would you want to know where you stand within your race? That is pretty much meaningless in terms of assessing player skill levels. And further, what it does is it completely hides any potential imbalances. So if a race is very dominant, it'd be easy to see that the top of the leaderboards is dominated by this race. But of course, at the moment, there's only three different leaderboards per single race, and then obviously you can tell whether the one race is dominated or not, because there's no way to set the options here to see an overall ranking of players. Not that that ranking will be very meaningful without the actual implementation of leagues and ratings and being able to see exactly how you're doing as a player, how this game that you lost and you got crashed, was against a player of more or less the same skill level as yours, or against someone who was much better than you were. So obviously, the fact that that is missing already puts this game way behind many other RTSs that have been out for years now, actually. But the fact that the leaderboards claim to provide a sense of overall player skill and overall arrangement of player skills across the whole community is just defeated by the fact that these are race specific. And thus we come to the verdict of our video. So just to wrap things up, I'd say that very interesting RTS and mobile mechanics were mixed in this game, and the design choices made the strategic layers of the game quite interesting. The introduction of a completely different resource called elite points, etc., and all the doctrine business, everything was lined up to form an interesting strategy game that unfortunately was completely hindered by a bad implementation and some game-breaking features. I don't know if I should call them features or bugs or defects, but as a matter of fact, at Enlightning Gaming, we do not recommend Dawn of War 3 as a means of self-improvement. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a comment down below, suggesting any further topics or games that you would like to see covered in the future. Also, if you're interested in knowing more about the philosophy behind Enlightning Gaming, the basis for our critique, and how we do analysis of games, make sure to follow these links that take you to the presentation videos of the channel. Thank you very much, and as always, may your gaming be enlightened.